Collecticon provided a massive boost to an already super successful month of selling Pokemon cards. Every month, I track 3 different metrics to measure the success of my side business of selling Pokemon cards. This month, we have an extra special 4th metric that we're going to cover as well. The first metric is my flipping. I like to source cards from Japan, get them in, grade them at PSA or CGC, and sell them on eBay for profit. The second metric is the comic book store. I rent a small table in a comic book store where I sell singles and some modern product like packs and sleeves. The third metric is collection progress. I bought 2 big collections this year, one for $10,000 and one for $4,500, and I've been tracking all the sales that have come from those collections to mark when I have actually hit the profit. We haven't been in the profit until this month, and we're going to go over how we made it into the profit on one of those massive collections. And last but not least, the extra special metric, you guessed it, it's in the title of the video, it's in the thumbnail. We went to Collecticon Charlotte and we sold a whole bunch of stuff at Collecticon, so we're going to go over that as well. All right, enough yapping, let's get into the spreadsheet. The columns of the spreadsheet all have a nice descriptive heading, but I like to break it down super quick on each one of these videos for any newcomers coming into these videos for the first time. The first column we have card number, pretty self-explanatory. Card name is next, that typically includes the grade. You can see CGC 10, Pristine, Dragonair. Card cost is the amount that I am into the card prior to any fees, including grading or eBay sellers fees or anything like that. That is what I purchased the card for initially before anything else happened to the card. Next, grading cost and cost totals. Cost total is the summation of the card's original cost plus the grading cost. That is my cost all in total of that particular transaction in that card. Next is sales. So what did I sell the card for on eBay? That gross number goes into that sales column. Next is fees. Fees are the eBay fees taken by eBay, whether it's promotional fees or just the sales fees from eBay. It all gets added up into that fees column. Sales minus fees is just that. It's the sales column minus the fees column from eBay. And last, we have the profit column. The profit column is the sales minus fees subtracting the cost total, and that gives us our profit. And we have one last little column for method. So I mark every transaction that is an auction on the right hand side. If it has an A next to it, that means that's sold in an auction. So what I like to do in these videos is I like to go over the big wins and the big losses. The dark red is when I lose money on a flip. If it's negative in any way, it goes dark red. The light red is any profit less than $5. And then if you see a green background cell in the profit section, this is profits over $50. So any profit margin over $50 is going to get the light green. And I think usually over $100 gets the dark green. I don't think we have any over 100, but as you can see, we've got a ton over 50. But first, we like to rip off the Band-Aid. So we are going to go into the losses, and I'm going to explain to you exactly what happened with these particular cards. Most of the losses on this sheet are auctions, first of all, and second of all, they are regular reverse holos from Pokemon 151 Japanese. My thinking initially was the Dark Phantasma reverse holo pattern was the same. It had the Pokeball pattern, and I got a Pikachu in one of my boxes, and that Pikachu actually pulled either the Perfect 10 or the Pristine 10 with CGC out the gate, and I sold it for a couple $100. So I thought, same reverse pattern, really popular Pokemon, let's buy a bunch of those reverse holos, not really thinking that the Master Ball reverses might actually kind of make the Pokeball reverses a little less desirable. I graded most of those cards with CGC at $9.60, and some of them I have been auctioning off. So auctions, in my experience, tend to go a little bit less than buy it nows, especially depending on the actual demand of the card itself. Now, these cards are from Pokemon 151, but like I said, a lot of people are going to be wanting those Master Balls because those are more unique than the Pokeballs. But I've done fairly decently on these cards so far, but not really on the ones that I've auctioned. So as you can see, the first one we have here is a CGC 10 Gyarados reverse. I did not get very many pristines of those particular reverse holos because they all had print lines, but I did get quite a few Gem Mint 10s. This Gyarados reverse cost all in was $12.60 after grading. It sold for $13.01, and that is why we lost $1.72, because after fees and everything that eBay takes, unfortunately, we lost a little over $1 on that particular card. The next one up you'll see is very similar. CGC 10 Gem Mint Arcanine, regular reverse, not Master Ball. We were in for the same amount, $12.60. It sold for $14.50, and unfortunately we were down about 44 cents on that one as well. The third of the culprits, same situation. CGC 10 Gem Mint Eevee reverse. all in at 1260, sold for 1701 this time. So we didn't lose any money, but we only profited about $1.40 on that auction. Last but not least, there's one more loss down here at the bottom of the pile, and that is a Pikachu character rare from Dark Phantasma. I'm going to talk more on this next month because, spoiler alert, as you can see, there's a lot more red here. And you're also going to see there is a lot of Pikachu CHRs here, and they all seem to be in this red range. Luckily, when we are losing, we're only losing $1, $2 here and there, and we're not losing that often. So thankfully, there's a lot more green on this chart than there is red. So let's take a look at the green. The first card above that $50 threshold for profit is the Pikachu promo from the Paldea Evolved ETBs. This is the Pokemon Center exclusive ETB, and they were the exclusive promos to come from those ETBs. And I got really lucky. All 4 of my Pikachu promos got 10s, and they ended up selling really well. So I actually sold this one very early on for $145. I think they all ended up selling above $100, which is really nice. I put the all-in price at 65 bucks. Basically, I put the price of the ETB or around the price of the ETB, graded it for 15. So at the end of the day, we did profit $59 on that transaction. Next is a PSA 9 Tyranitar Prime. I think the Tyranitar Prime and the Prime Reverse show up on this list. I bought them both at the same time for like 10 bucks a piece like 2 years ago. And I didn't necessarily think at the time that they were clean enough to send into PSA. I didn't think they had a chance at a PSA 10, so I held on to them for a while. And in a submission recently, I just said, screw it, just send them off, throw them to the wolves, see what happens. And they both ended up pulling 9s, which I was actually kind of surprised by. But my buy-in price, like I said, was just around $12, $13, 27 all in after the grading fees applied. I sold this one for 95, and I think I sold the other one for 115, 119. It'll show up again. I'll mention it as we pass by. But this one, we profited over $50 again on this card. It ended up being a great thing to just send in on a whim and get a 9. Next up is a PSA 10 copy of the Dragon Selection Rayquaza. I really like the line hollow on this Rayquaza. I think it's a really cool looking card. This is the second PSA 10 I've gotten of that card. I spent $25 on a super clean copy, all in for 40, sold it for 115, profited over $50, just like the other cards in that green range. As we move our way down this list, we're going to start seeing a pattern, and it's going to start right now. As you can see here, all of these are Master Ball reverse hollows. Even these 2 down here, which are also above $70 profit, that is a Master Ball reverse hollows, a bunch of them. So I bought in on the Master Ball reverse hollows just after the set came out, but when some of the more popular Pokemon were hitting around that $10 range, I decided to buy in to these cards, and it ended up working out very handsomely for me. So a lot of these cards I bought in at the 10, 11, 12 range. Some of them I got even below 10, like the Nidoking I bought in for 5. One of the Arcanines was $8. I graded them all with CGC. They all got CGC pristine 10s. I sold the majority of them right after I got back from Collecticon for $120 a piece. And on every one of these transactions, I profited over $70, which is absolutely insanely awesome. This is another scenario where I've seen a lot of people send off Master Ball reverse hollows to PSA, and they're getting 8s, 9s, 10s. A lot of people would say that PSA all the way, they have their brand loyalties, but there's always going to be situations in which CGC is a better play, PSA is a better play, Beckett is a better play. All of them are useful in different ways. Don't close off your mind to any one particular grading company. You never know when one of them is going to be more advantageous over the other ones, whether it's speed, whether it's cost, whether it's leniency on grading, whether it's toughness on grading, all of those different stuff that all can factor into where you're sending cards, and they all should be on the table at all times. Each instance has the potential to be better at a specific grading company. So just keep it in mind when you're thinking about sending off your cards. This one here is a PSA 10 Deoxys. This is from the Diamond and Pearl era. I think the very first Deoxys set card, at least. I don't know if there was a promo prior to this, but I did really well on this. It was a $12 card and got a PSA 10. We were all in for 26. I sold it for 95, so I profited over 50 bucks for it. That was great. Here's that Tyranitar Prime Reverse I mentioned before, $12.78 all in, $27. I did sell for 120 for over $75 profit. This was a Tag Team Rainbow card that did well. PSA 10 Espeon Deoxys Tag Team Rainbow. I bought in for $23.50. all in 38 after the grading fee, 110 sale, and over $50 profit. And last but not least, I finally sold this beautiful Infernape. So I had this card listed for a lot higher than $105, and I think it was Retrospecs undercut me by like 50%. Like I think he listed his in like the 120 range, 110, 120 range, and that's where they were kind of selling for, but low listed on eBay was around a couple $100. So that's where mine was sitting at for a while. I decided to adjust my price down below his, and then mine sold. It's a beautiful card. It's my favorite artwork of Infernape. It had a fat swirl on the left-hand side. Beautiful card. If I was an Infernape fan, that card would not have come out of my collection. All right, so in summary, the total amount of sales we had this month was $4,478 after $775 in fees. Our subtotal for sales was $3,702.88. And overall, after you subtract the cost of the cards and the grading costs, we were just over $2,000 in profit with $2,063.22 in profit for this month, just flipping. Now let's move on to the comic book store. Only a couple major changes at the comic book store. I've basically consolidated English and Japanese into their own binders. One thing that I have been tripping over, running into, having trouble with is sourcing English ultra rares for that 50-60% range so that I can turn around and put them in the store and sell them for what they're going for on market. I can do that easily with Japanese. I cannot do that easily with English. I have not found a good source for English ultra rares at that 50-60%. I'm looking for low cost stuff like V's, VMAXs. I don't need alternate arts or any crazy stuff, but lower cost kind of bulky V's and VMAXs and V stars and stuff like that for about 50-60% of TCG player pricing. That's kind of what I'm looking for. So English singles are all cards in the English single binder, so nothing from the case. This was $215. That's pretty good. Japanese singles, I recently filled up the Japanese binder with a bunch of Japanese ultra rares at about that 50-60% range, and I sold a bunch of them, thankfully. So we sold about $249 of Japanese singles. Modern bulk is the 4 for $1, 2 for $1 of the holos, reverse holos, and just regular bulk commons, uncommons, stuff like that. I have a couple little boxes that people just sift through and pull cards out of. We only sold $26.50 of that product. So unfortunately, that's probably the lowest amount that we've sold from that so far. I'm not quite sure what I can attribute to that. Maybe it's the fact that we have packs. Maybe people are gravitating more towards the packs that I've brought in. I'm not 100% sure, but that is definitely low compared to other months. Next is accessories. Accessories are the ETB sleeves. I just have a little basket full of a variety of ETB sleeves for $4. People come in and buy the sleeves quite a bit. This month, we only sold 2 of the packs. Case cards. Case cards are mostly singles above like $15, $20, and I've been putting graded cards in there as well. So kind of the lower cost $25 to $50 graded cards have been selling fairly decently. So I'm going to be stocking the store more with those really low cost graded cards, especially coming up into holiday. I think there might be a lot of parents that'll want to buy their kid like their first graded card, and to have like CGC 10s and PSA 10s in that $25 to $50 range might be something that people opt for like a gift or something for this holiday season. So, but we did about $130 in graded cards and singles. So I think I sold like 4 or 5 graded cards around the $30 mark, and then a few singles out of there as well. Last but not least, we still have booster packs up there. I would say Scarlet and Violet is moving like snail's pace. Paldea Evolved is selling pretty decently, kind of, and Obsidian Flames is selling probably the best of the 3. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be getting any Pokemon 151 packs that I feel comfortable selling to try and make money. Because the set doesn't come out in booster boxes, my buy-in price is like $5 or $6 a pack, so I don't really want to put packs out for like $8, $9, $10 a piece. I think that, to me, that feels kind of scummy. Whereas with the other sets, I can buy in at like less than $3 per pack and then put them for $4 in the case. I would feel bad selling 151 packs at like $8 a piece. But this month we did sell $117 worth of booster packs, so that was actually a pretty decent month for pack sales for sure. To wrap this up, my booth rent every month is $100, and they take 10% of my total sales. So my total sales this month were $745.50. That might actually be the lowest ever. Maybe not my first month, but it's pretty low. It actually picked up in the second half of the month. It was looking rough there for a little bit, but I was kind of neglecting it because I had Collecticon and all these other events I was doing at the time. So I was kind of neglecting the booth, but it picked up in the second half, and that's pretty awesome. So $74.55 were the consignment fees, 10% of my total sales, and then the money I'm walking away with, it's not necessarily profit, but the money at the end of the month that I'm walking away with is $570.95. So some of you guys might be saying, well, the percentage is kind of high, especially when you factor in the booth rent. Why don't you just sell all this stuff on eBay? So the reason I don't sell all this stuff on eBay is I don't manage this at all. I go in 2 days a week, maybe 15 minutes at a time, just to straighten things up, sometimes to adjust a couple prices, sometimes to fill up a binder with some new stuff, but I'm putting barely any time or effort into this, and I'm walking away with between $500 and $800 a month just by simply keeping it full and letting it manage itself. Next up is Collecticon. So Collecticon Charlotte was just a few weeks ago, and I had a blast. Not only did I have a blast, I sold a ton of stuff. And it wasn't necessarily people coming up to my booth that I sold a ton of stuff. I sold a ton of stuff to other booths. That's actually where the majority of this amount comes from. But let's break it down. So the table cost and the hotel cost. The table was $230 for the 2 days, really not that bad. And the hotel cost, I shared a room for 2 of the nights and stayed 1 night by myself. So that was $505. The total expenses, this doesn't count obviously food and gas. It would probably be closer to like $1,000. But in this case, it's about $735 for that weekend. And the first thing we can talk about is graded cards. So all I brought was graded cards. I didn't bring any raw cards at all. No binders, no nothing. It was all graded. And thankfully, they sold pretty decently. I was hoping to sell a bit more. I felt like I had a great variety of stuff, really popular Pokemon, but I feel like my positioning where I was, and I mentioned it in my Collecticon recap video, but the positioning that I felt like just wasn't a good spot. It was more of like a walk-through spot than a shopping spot. And unfortunately, I feel like my table got missed by quite a few larger buyers because of its location. We still sold about $2,577 of graded cards, which is great, which is really good. It still would have been worth it, even if I had just done this and not sold any packs, but we did sell quite a few EX era vintage packs. One of my main goals going into Collecticon Charlotte was to sell through my vintage light packs. Even though I was extremely confident that these packs were legit, obviously I've opened one of each. I've opened a Fire Red pack, I've opened a Team Rocket Returns pack. I was still wary of selling these on eBay. That's why I held on to them for so long, because I know that people can get kind of picky, and if they don't pull what they want, you never know if they're going to charge back or try and refund, or it can be a little hairy when it comes to vintage packs and stuff. So I wanted to find an outlet that I was able to sell these packs without selling them to just random people on eBay. And thankfully, the first day, quite a few people came up and wanted to buy the Fire Red Leaf Green packs. They really liked the prices, I guess. We negotiated a lot, and I think I sold quite a few of those packs. I think over $1,000 was the light Fire Red Leaf Green packs, and then I didn't sell any Team Rocket Returns pack to any customers, but at the end of the event, I was recommended to go to a booth at Collecticon. It was called Loose Packs, and all they sold is loose packs, vintage, modern, all sorts of crazy packs. I went up there, brought my packs, told them that they were light packs, and I just said, what would you give me for these? They offered a really fair price, and I just sold them all on the spot. In pack sales, I walked away with $5,250 in packs. My total for the weekend was $7,827, and after the fees and everything from the weekend, the cost of the hotel and the table and all that stuff, $7,092. It's probably more like $6,800 or somewhere in there with food and gas and stuff. But it was a great weekend. I sold a bunch of awesome stuff. I moved everything that I wanted to move, and I came out way ahead. So really happy about it. Last but not least, let's jump into the collections. So 2 collections, one was $10,000, one was $4,500, and we've been tracking our progress. When are we going to get into the profit? Now, if you guys didn't know, those vintage EX era packs were from the $10,000 collection. So as you can see, the total profit is now green. Let's go. We are now into the profit. We've got so much more to sell. All the heavy packs that I have from that collection are still for sale. I've got loads of stuff still to sell from this collection, and we are already $600 in the profit. So what took us into the profit, I already mentioned it, was selling off the light packs, the light EX Team Rocket Returns and light Fire Red Leaf Green packs. We sold them all off for $5,250, and that boosted us $600 into the profit margin for this collection. Absolutely awesome. Round of applause. That was a big collection. I've been like 5,000 in the negative for about 6 months now. I'm super happy that those sold, and I'm super happy to be in the profits for that collection now. Absolutely awesome. The second collection is the $4,500 collection. As you can see, we're still negative deficit, but are we? Find out next month to see if we are now green and in the profit of this collection as well. Wink, wink. We are. Pretty awesome. We had a pretty big sale just the other day. Unfortunately, the sale did not happen in September. It was actually my first sale that I've ever sold using eBay Vault, so we can talk about that next month. But October is off to a great start. I'm in the profit for both of these collections. We did sell some graded cards, so I moved the Pokekune Gardevoir EX and Pokekune Mega Gardevoir EX at the Collecticon, so those were $400 a piece. Those were pretty dang good prices for the person that bought them. The other thing I sold at the event to a different person was the Pokekune PSA 10 Charizard. Love this card. I sold it for 135 bucks. The guy snap bought it, saw it, snap bought it. And last but not least, we did sell the CGC 8.5 Umbreon promo, the XY96 promo. That's when he's standing in the woods and he's got the moon shining down on him. It's super cool looking. We sold this one off of eBay. You can see I sold it for $90, and after fees and everything, about $63 added to that collection. So yeah, we are now in the profit for that collection, but we are really close to the profit of that collection. Well, that is the breakdown for September. I really appreciate you guys coming by and watching through the entire video. If you've made it this far, make sure to let me know in the comments below if you enjoy these videos, if I should keep doing them, what you want to know. I know some people have asked for like a template or a tutorial on how to create this particular spreadsheet. It's really not difficult. Most of this is manually entered. There's nothing like pulling API from eBay or anything particularly difficult. I use two different equations, the sum equation and the minus equation, and that's it. And it's built off of Google Sheets, but the same equations you could probably use in Excel as well. It's pretty straightforward. It's mostly manual. I wish it was more automated than it was, but I have some very rudimentary skills in Sheets and Excel. We'll see you next month for another summary.